Superintendent, did you support Beatriz Vergara and her co-petitioners?
I testified for 5 days on the stand. I agree with the outcome of the case. I think that the laws have contributed to egregious harm to students and to adults in the state of California. This is a California trial, and the laws of California are the ones that are being discussed. And we have tons of anecdotes and lots of evidence in the trial. And I think that we can discuss what I consider to be a very landmark trial, and it's a very powerful experience to have been through that. And I actually think that the laws as they are currently written do harm. I think the solution, I think the conversation is not about whether we should continue in the courts. It's about whether can very smart, which there are many people of, sitting on the stage are some, reasonable, thoughtful people actually find a way to change the laws and policies versus continuing to go through the court system. So if you just take them individually, the tenure law was, to me, patently problematic. So I was testified. You happen to tell the truth on the stand. We live under the rule of law in this country, and that is the way that this works. How this came about is obviously people can say they like it or didn't like it, but in 14 to no more than 16 months, you have to make a decision for lifelong tenure in the state of California is ridiculous. It's ridiculous on its face, and it's ridiculous for two fronts. One is it actually is disrespectful to teachers, that I don't even get as a system to provide the professional development we promise you for your first 2 years before we make the decision whether we keep you for your first 2 years.
And just to clarify, who's making that decision? Someone's been in the classroom for just over, they're in the first part of their second instructional year. Who's making that call?
You have 2 visitations in your first year, and you get 1 visitation in your second year, and your supervisor, which is most likely your principal, but it could be an assistant principal at a high school, makes the decision that we've been able to show that you have grown. You know, I wasn't the chemistry teacher I was in my first year as I was in my 7th year. You want to be able to see someone over time get better. You want to help the person get better, and you want to amass evidence that they're actually doing the job well and better each time. That's an impossibility in 14 months. So it's not, in my opinion, I was asked point blank, do I believe in a system of tenure? I absolutely believe in tenure. I believe that people should have a level of regard, celebration. We're saying we want you for the rest of your career, hopefully with us. We're investing in you. And there's just a level of protections because you've demonstrated you have those skill sets. The issue is not in a year and 2 months. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So in that case, I think that the laws absolutely do harm because we're making decisions. You know, by the way, thousands of teachers get used and don't get fired in California. So you wouldn't have gotten fired in California if you had a U around this. The second had to do with last in, first out.
I know, but I would have been fired in New York.
In last in and first out mean that the only way that you have to determine whether a teacher is let go when you have to either downsize for economic means or you have to downsize because of enrollment is seniority and seniority alone. So all of the things that, and you know, for the audience, I would argue that we've had a very long and deeply professional relationship and career, Randy and I have great respect, and where we'll agree or disagree is, I think we're very interested in solutions, is that the things that we fight for, that we want to recognize in teachers, are completely prohibited from being acknowledged when you have to make the decision. I mean, we are forced to the single most objective thing, allegedly, which is a teacher's hiring date. Well, then why don't we use teacher height? Very objective. You can see it. It's clear. I felt it's as ludicrous as that. You want to recognize contributions to the teacher, their evaluation, which are evaluations, for example, that you put into place in New York, meaningful, rigorous evaluations. We don't get to use those whatsoever. Contributions to a community, to family, all of that can't be counted. So the things that we actually celebrate in teachers, we're prohibited from taking into consideration, and so therefore you absolutely lose great talent. No system in the world would design itself to willingly get rid of great talent. It doesn't work that way. And the hiring laws, I think, speak for themselves. I mean, it takes I think there's a lot of agreement that it is completely broken. When it takes 10 years to fire an individual who's absolutely convicted of molestation, 10 years, there's something fundamentally broken. We're not talking, even in California, whether you can teach algebra. We're talking about whether you can harm a child, and I can't get rid of you.